Well, I think we will go ahead and get started. And it's great to see all of you here on this snowy evening. We have a special interactive session planned for you tonight. Each one takes to you beyond something else. So beyond certain boundaries. Our first presentation tonight is entitled Beyond the Arirang by JungGanBo Lee. And JungGanBo is a doctoral student in organ performance, studying with Dr. Dean Billmeyer. She has done extensive training in Korea and then came to the United States and was a visiting scholar in the choral activities music department at the University of Wisconsin, River Falls. She's also a recipient at the University of Minnesota of the Henry Brooks Organ Fellowship and Stephania Denbo Fellowship. So we're delighted to have JungGanBo Lee here tonight to present on Beyond the Arirang. Please unmute and welcome her.
My name is JungGanBo Lee, and I'm a second-year DMA student in organ performance at the University of Minnesota. It's been a little over 2 years since I came to the United States, and even though it's a short time, I encountered and experienced the various aspects of American society, particularly in this situation where a lot of things have changed since COVID-19. I'm thinking about what philosophy I should have as a musician and what kind of music activities I will go on in the future. As I attended the choral conducting seminar as a secondary emphasis, these thoughts came up to more specific questions. And today I expect that it will be an opportunity to give myself small answers to my concern by introducing some Korean cultures and music to you in the intimate space across borders. I lived in St. Louis, Missouri with my husband's studies in 2005 to 2007. There weren't many people who knew about Korea. During the time, I remembered the words from a choir member of the church. He said, uh, the only he knows about Korea is that the UN Secretary General is Korean and the choir director is Korean. That was me. And what do you know about Korea now? When you think of Korea, you might think of these things. First, Korean film. At the beginning of this year, Korean film Parasite was nominated for Academic Awards in 6 categories and awarded the 4 categories, including Best Picture. I think some of you may be seen it, and also some of you may think of BTS, which is influencing the young generation around the world. My daughter told me that have some parents in the United States like BTS, and they encourage their children to listen to BTS music because of their lyrics. Many pop songs have sensational and violent lyrics, but the BTS text include hopeful and bright content. Anyway, probably some of you might think of these companies that makes electrical appliances, or you might think of some Korean food like kalbi, bibimbap. And I think many people know about Korea now. Then, do you know where Korea is located? I will show you. Ta-da. Yes, since Korea is geographically located at the eastern end of the Asian continent, it has historically been heavily influenced by China and has influenced each other's cultures with Japan, sometimes friendly, sometimes coercively. At the end of the 19th century, Western culture began to propagate as Western missionaries entered the Korean land for missionary mission. During the 36 years of Japanese colonial rule in the early 20th century, musicians who were educated in Western music emerged. After Liberation Day in 1945, they became the pioneers of Western music in Korea. Until the Western music came in, traditional Korean music can be divided into jeongnam, played at the banquet at the palace, sa물놀이, enjoyed by ordinary citizens, pansori, that tells stories through songs, and folk songs that originated in each region. Of these today I'm going to share and talk about folk songs. Before diving into folk songs, I would like to compare Korean music with Western music and examine the characteristics of Korean traditional music. First, I would like to talk about the beats and rhythms. As you know, Western music also has a three-beat dance song like a waltz, but it is usually based on four beats. However, the most Korean music and folk songs are based on three beats. The four-beat music also has three beats in it. A variety of rhythmic patterns called JungGan appear in each song and are played with a JungGanBo or Korean drum. In court music, a single rhythmic pattern leads the entire song, but in folk music, the fast tempo and improvisation are emphasized, and various rhythm patterns are changed dynamically by the performer who leads the song. Second, if Western music is a three-dimensional music made of harmonies with straight tones, Korean music can be said to be curved music because it uses a flowing tone as material. It is difficult to make a chord because it changes with the sound itself. So even when Korean traditional instruments play together, like ensemble or symphonic style, they do not create chords and they all play the same melody. Just as Western music has major and minor scales, Korean music has 평조 and 계명조. 평조 is a scale corresponding to the major of Western music, and there are 5-tone and 6-tone scales, and 계명조 is a scale as minor, and there are 3-tone, 4-tone, and 5-tone scales. Finally, there is a difference in the form of notation. Western music has used the notation method we know, and Korean music has annotated music using a notation method called JungGanBo, created by King Sejong the Great, the third king of the Joseon dynasty. However, all the music notated in JungGanBo was 정악, used in court, and the music that ordinary citizens enjoyed was oral tradition. Here, I will look at JungGanBo for a moment. This is the score of daegeum. Daegeum is a woodwind instrument made of bamboo. It's like a flute in Western. Located in JungGanBo. If you zoom in on the first part, it looks like this. This JungGanBo score runs from top to the bottom and from right to left. For better understanding compared to Western music, this small square is a concept of one beat, and one row one row is like a one bar. So, and if there is a one note name in the square, it means to play the note in one beat. And if there are two notes names above and below, it means to play half and half like 8 notes from top to bottom. But as I mentioned before, Korean music has 3 bits, so probably it's hard to play them like half. If there are 3 note names or if the notation in one square is divided into 3 parts, it means to divide the bit into triple notes. And the name of the pitch is written in Chinese characters, and various symbols indicate this type of ornamentation. This, this thing, this kind of ornamentation. As I mentioned earlier, that the sound of Korean music is fluid. The sound is expressed with various ornaments. And here is the greeting mark. This is a greeting mark. And this small triangle is a rest mark. And these music are played together from the beginning to the end without any pause. In Western symphonies, there are many pausing parts, but not in Korean traditional symphony. So they also can be played solo. Here, let's listen to the first part of this song. This song is To Yeonjang, and this performance was performed by students of the Korean Traditional Music School. They are all middle and high schoolers. And I just explained, can you see this little girl? Yeah, she is a conductor. So she has the kind of as a percussion instrument, and and when she played tada like this, it means ready, and then ta is go. So you can probably hear that. Okay, like this Korean traditional music has unique characteristics. Now we go one step forward. The song we are going to learn today is Korean folk song Arirang, and I think some of you might know and heard this song. This Arirang tune was adopted as the tune of the Christian hymn "Christ, You Are the Fullness" in 1986, and became more popular in the United States and Canada. It was included on the UNESCO's Intuitive Cultural Heritage List in 2012, and Arirang, arranged by BTS in 2016, was introduced to many people around the world, especially younger generation. So, Arirang is one of the Korean folk songs that repeats Arirang, Arirang, Arario in the refrain. First, I want to talk about some hypotheses about the origin of Arirang word. There are more than 30 hypotheses, and I will introduce some of them most representatively. First, there is a theory of God. This was the most recently published by an ancient data collector in South Korea. He explained Ari refers to a god in ancient culture, meaning to be with God. Another theory is that in ancient shamanistic culture, Arirang was used in shamanistic rites as a means of welcome the soul and accept and endure the pain of sorrow and separation. Also, scholars who study Chinese characters say that means myself in Chinese character. Di represents meaning of realization, and Lang is a word that represents joy. So the meaning of Ariang is the joy of realizing myself. And it is also an expression of the mountain named Arirang that appears in various stories, which means the difficulties that must be overcome in life. In addition, this it is said to express the sorrow of the separated lovers that originated from the story of a virgin named Ariang. But all are hypotheses, and it is difficult to find out the exact origin. However, as you can see from all these origins, we can find that Arirang is a word that implies both sadness and joy. Like various theories about ethnology, Arirang was sung through the Korean peninsula to suit the characteristics of each region. There are more than 60 kinds of arirang, and there are various arrangements accordingly. Now we will listen. Um, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Now we will listen to five of the most representative arirang songs and learn one of them. Listening to arirang in each region, you can probably see how arirang was expressed in a meaning that implies both joy and sorrow. First is a 정성 아리랑. Next is Miryang Arirang. Very different, right? And Jindo Arirang.
아리아리랑 수리수리랑 아라리가 나네 아리랑 아라리가 나네 운경세제 눈웬구겐구 구구야 구구구구가 눈물이로
And the Gangwon-do Arirang.
아리아리 수리수리 아라리요 아리아리 고개로 넘어간다 하중다리 동배가 아여지 마라 우를 괴자고 머리행이
And then lastly, Punjo Arirang, used as a Christian hymn tune, which people think is Arirang. Before we listen, I would like to briefly explain about Punjo Arirang. This song was written by Naum Yu, the film director for the silent film Arirang in in 1926 and was made by adapting Arirang in Gyeonggi province. Arirang, made as a silent film, metaphorically expresses the sadness and pain of Koreans who were under Japanese colonial rule at the time. The film was released in 1926 and screened for 2.5 years and was later regularly screened until the 1950s when the Korean War broke out. Arirang, sung by a band and singer from the Dansangsa, a movie theater that was screening Arirang film, it became a national song. At the time, there were 5 films completed, with the process of screening for a long time and cutting and pasting the old parts again, so there are currently no original films left. Fortunately, there was a recording of the speaker and music at the time of the film, so I'd like to listen to it. Yeah, this film and music Arirang, which expressed the sadness and pain of Koreans in difficult times and gave them an identity, united the Koreans and gave them hope, even in the years after the Korean War. Arirang fills with sadness, joy, and hope, expresses the spirit of overcoming the pains and difficulties of Korean history. Now, Arirang is being introduced as a new tool of hope for many countries suffering poverty and thirsty in the world. So, now we are going to learn one verse of Bunjo Arirang. So please follow the lyrics with your eyes while I read them. 아리랑, 아리랑, 아라리요. 아리랑, 고개로 넘어간다. 나를 버리고 가시는 님은 심리도 못 가서 발병 난다. So now, say after me, okay? I'll read slowly. 아리랑, 아리랑, 아라리요. Say, 아리랑, 아리랑, 아라리요. 아리랑 고개로, say it. 아리랑 고개로 넘어간다. 넘어간다. Okay. Next. 나를 버리고. Okay. 나를 버리고 가시는 님은 가시는 님은 심리도 못 가서 심리도 못 가서 발병 난다. 발병 난다. Okay. Is it okay? One more? One more time? Okay, keep moving. So now we are going to okay. Yeah. First, 아리랑 is basically a 세마치 장단 among the various rhythmic patterns of the traditional Korean music mentioned earlier. 세마치 장단 is one of them. The instrument I will play now is a percussion instrument called JungGanBo. You see it? Okay. That it used to play with almost Korean music. Yeah. Before I play this, can you see this little square, right? JungGanBo. I already mentioned that. So it's one beat each square. and then this is a 1 bar. And then there is the punctuation marks, square and stick. So square means using left hand and then play left side of the janggam like this. Can you hear that? Okay. And the stick means play with stick on right hand. So like that. And then the stick and the square is put together, right? So we play together. So like this. So, and then there is the spoken sound. So together, together as a we call tong, tong. Can you say tong? Okay, and then this is dog. Can you say dog? And this circle is cool. So if I play with my spoken sound, dong, dong, dog, cool, dog. Can you repeat after me? Ready, go. Dong, dong, dog, cool, dog. Dong, dong, dog, cool, dog. So this rhythmic pattern run through the whole entire of this music. So now we just try with the your hands. I need your hands and play. Yes, play. Maybe top of the table or some your anywhere. So yeah, maybe yes, the test. So dong dong dog kung dog. Okay, okay. One more time. Ready, go. Dong dong dog kung dog. Okay. Now you need to look closely. So we will read the text with Changdan. Okay. So just follow after me. Ang. Ready, go. Ang. Okay, one more time. Go. Ang. Right. So we just did 2 rows, right? And then third row. Ready, go. And then yo. Ready, go. Yo. So this the first 4 rows are just one phrase. So can we do that? First 4 rows. Okay. Ready, go. Good job. Even I can hear you, but you look great. Okay. And the 5th row. Okay, just here. Listen. It's the same. Ready, go. And the next row, just listen. Kukero. Oh, ready, go. Kukero. Oh, and the next row. Nomokanda. Oh, I did 2 rows. Okay, 2 rows. Last 2 rows. Ready, go. Nomokanda. Okay, so we did 2 phrases. And the next. Okay, it's the same, but the different words. So the first row. Ready, go. And the next row. Ready, go. And the next row. 가시느니. Ready, go. 가시느니. And the next row. 는. Ready, go. Okay, so the first 4 rows, okay, from the top. 나를. Ready, go. 나를 버리고 가시는 님은. Good job. Yeah, we left just 4 rows. So the 5th row. 심리도. Ready, go. 심리도. And the next row. 못 가서. Ready, go. 못 가서. And the next row. 발병난. Ready, go. 발병난. And the next row. 다. Okay, I think I missed that. I made the mistake. So the 발병난 is correct. Okay, okay, yeah, we did it. So I'll make a little bit easier for you. Yeah. Now I made a score with Western notation. Many Korean composers arranged ariang and they used the 3/4 meter instead of 9/8. So I made this score with 3/4. But you should think the rhythmic pattern in this song. So I put with swing on top of the score. So please sing with feeling of swing. If you feel the 세마치 장단, that will be perfect. Now we just listen the recordings. The music is recorded by myself and my daughters. So just listen first time. Okay, now we are going to sing together, and there is a little introduction. Go. Great, good job, everybody. Now you know the meaning represented in Arirang, which has hope. So I tried to put another song with Arirang. When I was young, I like to sing Christian hymns, especially Amazing Grace, because I think I like the tune and the spirit in that song. I think these two songs have many similarities. First, they are musically pentatonic scale, and the stories about their origins are varied. And there is a history of being sung as a folk song, Korean folk song, and Ireland and Scottish folk song. And these were adopted as a hymn tune. And also the impact of these two songs on the world is so also incredibly powerful. So I put these songs together. Now I invite you to sing these beautiful and powerful songs together with the spirit of hope contained in these songs. And I hope that we could overcome all difficulties around us with this spirit beyond the Arira. Now sing the parts as you like. How beautiful. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to invite my daughter to sing together. Okay. And any questions?
Good job, Jung. Good, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Juyang, which of these forms of arirang did you sing or learn when you were a child? Which of the different forms?
Um, when I was a child, I didn't know about the differences. I think it's all same arirang. Yeah, but the Bonjo Arirang is the most main, Arirang tune. So I think I learned from my mom maybe, or my grandmother, yeah, first, and then I was uh, maybe in school, yeah, when I was elementary school, yeah, I learned other Arirangs, but I thought they are all just same Arirang.
So Kathy, this is a Dennis. I grew up listening to Jindo Arirang because my father loved the Jindo Arirang. So he used to, listen to the music quite often. So I just, I remember listening to the music when I was young. It's just something special to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kathy, I want to add one more thing. Juyang is our choir music group conductor. We have a Korean singing group meeting once a month. We used to meet once a month at our house. So basically all the Korean members on today's meeting are members of the singing group. The one person, Mr. Hong, is from Korea. He's, as you might know, he's husband of Juyang Lee.
Yes.
Yes, right.
That is wonderful that so many of your choir members are here, Juyang. And Dennis, thank you for sharing that information.
Okay, so I think you, Patrick, and Bob, and Elisa, all you can be our guest someday when we can meet. We'll invite you. We'll invite you to our house. Let's have a great party. We sing Arirang together.
That would be great.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
I do have a question for our conductor in residence tonight. Do young pop groups ever do strange things or various pop versions of these? And if so, what versions would they start with?
Actually, I don't know about that. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I think I heard once because my daughter really likes that the the BTS group. So they arranged the arirang, and but I think I just read the feedback, and there are many good comments about the arirang, and even the young generation really likes that arirang tune. Yeah.
Well, Ju-Young, we want to thank you for your very informative session. And for those of you that have not looked in the chat, Ju-Young has provided you with a small gift to take home. I've placed her score to Arirang and Amazing Grace in the chat. If you click it, it will open up and you can download it. So Ju-Young, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
And we will all unmute and thank you for this great presentation.
Thank you.
And now we are going to move to our second presentation. And this is with Shaun Evans, who is a second-year student in wind band conducting at the University of Minnesota. He received his Master of Music degree from the University of California, and he also served as a high school band director in Georgia. He's currently leading one of our campus bands and has a great deal to share about choirs and wind music. Welcome, Shaun Evans.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight. Let me see here. There we go. I'm going to start my screen share real quick. Perfect. So, welcome. I'm really excited to be here. It's I really enjoyed this the creation of this presentation. Tonight, the second installment of our Beyond series. This is Beyond Symphony of Psalms. So, what we're going to discuss. At the beginning of this process, I found myself reflecting on works that I know are created solely for winds and choir. And of course, my mind fills with, Bruckner's Mass, and then, it moves through different composers, and then I end up at Symphony of Psalms by Stravinsky, and I'm like, well, what else is there? And me personally, I didn't really know at the beginning of this exploration. So I was really curious to know what existed as a wind ensemble conductor, what collaborations I could have with my choir colleagues, with my ensemble. And then I was like, well, I should really look into this and see what there is that exists. To stretch my knowledge base even further, I wanted to find composers that aren't just typical wind ensemble composers that everyone knows about. I wanted to find people from different parts of the world with different backgrounds and different connections to various cultures. So I began searching through all sorts of databases and all sorts of locations, trying to find as many pieces for winds and choirs I could, possibly find. And of course, this list began to become very extensive. There was just long lists. And so I was like, I need to make this a little more concise. So I cut out all the pieces that were transcriptions for orchestra and winds, so that it was solely written for wind ensemble and choir. And then to go even further, I went through and I got rid of pieces that had choir as optional, so written for winds with optional choir. If it's for optional choir, then it's not really for winds and choir. And then lastly, I started to really look at the text that existed. And so a lot of the pieces that were left that I had in this list that it was getting shorter and shorter, the texts were oohs or ahs. And I don't know about you, but I feel like if I'm singing in a choir, I feel like I'm so much more than just ooh or ah, virtual hands in the air or what have you. If that's your feeling, I'm right there with you. So I wanted text that was exciting and interesting and engaging for both the vocalists, but also for the audience. So that brought me down to a shorter list. And from that, I found 4 pieces by composers that I was very intrigued to learn about. And then also pieces that I would be excited to program with my ensemble in the future. And that's what I want to share with you tonight. what we're going to do with that information, we're going to touch on a few of your past experiences, which I'm curious about. We're going to talk about the 4 pieces for winds and choir that I narrowed all of this down to. I just shared the qualifications of the selection process. And the last thing is just making sure that we all understand the differences between a band or concert band, a wind ensemble, and a chamber ensemble. So as far as instrumentation is concerned, a concert band is from like the early 1900s. It's just a huge band with tons of people playing tons of instruments. You know, you have 20 clarinets and then 15 saxophones and 20 trumpets. So it's just a massive sound. And you can have as many or as little as you would like in that kind of department. A wind ensemble is very different. It's one person on a part, and the number of members usually sits between 35 to 52, whereas a concert band can be from 50 to however many you want. And then a chamber ensemble gets even more selective. It gets smaller. So we're looking, honestly, anywhere from as few, maybe 6 or more players to that 20-ish range is where we're looking at our chamber ensemble, because those are the type of ensembles we're going to see in these pieces that we're going to be looking at tonight. So first, what I'd like to talk about is past experiences. You know, I'm curious if any of you have ever performed in a collaborative project between a choir and wind ensemble. Has anyone here ever had that experience? And if so, what was that experience like? I'm curious what the sound world was like for you.
And Shaun, shall we put our comments in the chat or just unmute?
You're more than welcome to unmute or put comments in the chat. I'll open up my chat as well so I can see those.
Thank you.
If that's easier for anyone, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, certainly Symphony of Psalms does come to mind by Stravinsky. That was the last thing that we would have done in our previous season, but then it was canceled because of COVID. But I always loved that piece because of the dialogue between the winds and the voices, and just how the winds enhance the voices.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Anyone else? Stravinsky Mass, I see. Yes, absolutely. What a wonderful experience to be a part of, in rehearsal and performance of that piece. So with this sound world, with choir and winds, at the UN grad school, that's even cooler. Oh my gosh, how awesome. See, we're connecting on a deeper level now. This is wonderful. So, you know, if we get that opportunity to ever have that piece performed again while I'm here, that would be wonderful. Carmina Burana with band, but not a wind ensemble. Yeah, very cool. Very challenging piece for winds, and I'm sure choir as well with the different parts. That's very, very nice. Yeah, the sound world of choir and winds together is one that I think communicates really well together, especially with the person, like if it's orchestrated well, how they can both work to enhance the sound of one another. But then also the other two aspects of this that I'm really interested in is connecting your information from the previous week about musicking, the experience of musicking that Vinay was talking about, and how that, what that's like when you are in this setting with wind ensemble and choir. You know, what does that musicking feel like for you when you're listening to, participating in, or as an audience member? And then lastly, the feeling of collective effervescence in the rehearsal process and final performance. And so with collective effervescence, I personally was not aware of this term itself until one of my students this past semester brought it up. But that collective effervescence is that feeling we get when we perform together in a large group, and you start to get goosebumps or the emotions, and also just the way the brain works and sends the chemicals and signals because you're a part of something bigger than yourself. It's why we feel good when we sing together or when we play music together, because we are doing this together and expressing ourselves. So that collective effervescence, that feeling of being a part of something greater than yourself, what that feels like in rehearsal and performance. And we'll talk about these two things in context of the 4 pieces. So moving forward, the first piece, or first conductor, composer, if you will, Carlos Cyriac, born 1915, passed away in 1997, is a Spanish composer, conductor, and pianist. And he was the conductor of the Barcelona Philharmonic Orchestra, and then later moved to the United States and taught at Carnegie Mellon University. In an interview a reporter had with Carlos Surignac, when he moved here, similar to Arnold Schoenberg, Carlos Surignac dropped the accent over the N, and he became Carlos Surignac. And the reporter asked him, he's like, does it matter to you how people pronounce your name? He said, honestly, as long as they're talking about me, I'm fine. So he was like, you're talking about me, we're good. That means I'm doing something right. How you say my name doesn't matter. But Carlos Surignac, very interesting composer. He wrote for primarily orchestra and some ballet, and worked on, I believe, one opera, which he didn't like talking a lot about. This piece that we're going to look at of his is the only piece he has for choir and concert band, or the two together. And so that piece is Celebraciones Medievales, and it was composed in 1977. It's 16 minutes long. It's in 4 movements. And then it's for SATB choir and concert band. So there is no restriction on the numbers of ensemble participants in the wind aspect or in the choir aspect. And that creates, of course, challenges and opportunities in both departments. The piece itself, Carlos Surignac said, has no intellectual implications. It has been written purely to be enjoyed. A few authentic medieval themes are included, but most of the melodies have been invented and elaborated by myself. So the music himself, or the music he put together himself in that regard, and some of the different movements refer to the story of Don Quixote, even though they're not direct quotes, but they are. They do bring up Don Quixote's name, and then just celebrating, championing different parts of the book. So what we're going to listen to is a performance by Escola Superior de Música de Lisboa Wind Ensemble and Choir. And this is in Portugal in 2015. It's conducted by Renato Tomás. So we're going to listen to the 3rd movement, the Pastoral de Amor, and we're just going to listen to the beginning of it. And in this, in the recording we're going to listen to, just so you know, the text is saying, "Hear the angel speak, careful when you play. When the cornet speaks, my love is sweet. He speaks, he speaks, he speaks, careful when you play." And that's just the beginning of the text of what's going on. But I want you to think about the collective effervescence feeling that you would have if you were performing as a part of this piece in the choir aspect or in the wind ensemble aspect, what that collective effervescence would feel like for you personally. So here's our first recording. So in this 3rd movement, we hear kind of that collaboration between winds and choir, of course, and then thinking about the collective effervescence, how it makes you feel and what it would be like to be a part of that ensemble, I think is important to think about. This is, unfortunately for this piece, this is the only recording that exists on the internet currently. And so I would be curious to see, one, this piece performed by other ensembles here in the future. But two, another thing I want you to think about, especially as we move through this talk, is the setup. It's like what I've seen as a typical setup with winds and then the choir behind the ensemble and elevated so the voices kind of ring over. But when we go through our next three recordings, you'll notice that there's differences in the way that it's set up. So we'll talk about that some too as we progress. But this is Carlos Cyrignac's Celebraciones Medievales. Next, we're going to look at Susan Botti, who was born in 1962. American composer and performer, teaches composition at the Manhattan School of Music, has received the Guggenheim Fellowship and also the Rome Prize. Wonderful, wonderful composer and performer. And Susan Botti has been here and performed the piece we're going to talk about here in Minnesota a few times. So there's a deep connection there with Susan Botti in Minnesota, which is wonderful. The piece we're going to look at is Cosmosis, which was composed in 2005. It's 22 minutes long. It's 4 movements: Overboard, the first night, Interlude, and the second night. And this is written for women's chorus, soprano solo, and chamber wind ensemble. So already we're in a different realm as far as instrumentation and voices are concerned. With the chamber wind ensemble, you have a much smaller group. But what's interesting is Susan Botti, instead of what typically happens with wind ensembles, there's one string bass player. Here in this chamber wind ensemble, Susan Botti has written for 2 string bass players, which is it adds a unique depth to the sound, which is very, very beautiful and rich. And so this piece was commissioned by a consortium of wind ensembles, directed by Michael Haithcock at the University of Michigan. And it included participants from Baylor University, Florida State University, as well as Michigan State University and the University of Texas. And this was commissioned while Susan Botti was teaching at the University of Michigan. So there was a close connection there, which is before she moved and then started her new position that she's in now. So Cosmosis is, let's see, what we're going to listen to will be the University of North Texas Wind Symphony and Women of the A Cappella Choir with Eugene Migliaro Corporon conducting. The text from this piece is Overboard and the Cross Spider by Mae Swenson, which is very, very, very cool. In the writing of Susan Botti, Cosmosis plays with the musical equivalents of gravitational force following the shapes laid out in the poem. Before entering the gravitational free sea of space, here Arabella, the spider that this is about, succeeds in her quest on the first night, which is our second movement, musical interlude reflecting the vastness of space as well as the heroic undertaking. In the second night, Arabella succeeds again, but is sacrificed in the process. And the Cross Spider by Mae Swenson is response to news of a Skylab experiment in which a student project proposed to see whether a spider could spin a web in space. So Arabella is this spider trying to spin this web in space. What we're going to listen to first is the beginning, is the Overboard. And in this, what the text is saying is what throws you out is what drags you in. What drags you in is what throws you out. What throws you out is what drags. What drags is what throws you. And it's this push and pull of this cosmic space or this feeling of space that's taking place. As we listen to this, think about musicking from the ensemble perspective, or not so much from the ensemble, but from the audience perspective. What that musicking, that sensation, that feeling is like when you hear the opening of this section and how it moves through its own sound world. And so in this excerpt, you can hear that drag and throw, and then the ensemble adding this element of kind of this cosmic cosmosis, this cosmic space sensation of, you know, this gravitational pull or lack of, and then maybe the spider. It kind of builds this imagery for you, setting up the tone of the entire piece. The next section that we're going to listen to is the interlude, and then going into the second night. So the interlude, third movement, going into movement for the second night, and the interlude, you'll hear the a cappella chorus singing Arabella's name multiple times, and then it will move into the second night where our soloist Susan Bhatti will begin sharing portions of the poem, act as if no center exists. Arabella advised herself, thus inverted was deformed the labyrinth of grammar. Angels melted, circles unraveled, ladders lost their rungs, and nothing clinched. So here is the second excerpt. And in this one, think about that Music King experience now. Instead of being in the ensemble or in the audience listening to it, think about it and put yourself in the shoes of somewhere you would not normally be. If you're normally in the choir or choral setting, think about yourself in the shoes of an instrumentalist and what that Music King experience would feel like from that perspective. I think it's interesting and beautiful, especially in this those last chords, hearing how some notes are doubled within the winds versus the choir, but then also there are some added notes that help to enhance that sonic space or that sonic sound that's coming at the audience. And thinking from that perspective of a different performer's experience and that what that musicking would feel like, I think is always interesting to have, if you're the one playing that soprano sax solo in that section, when this is taking, like, it's really building an intense moment together, and what that feeling is like is nice to think about, because I believe in energy when you're in an ensemble. Whatever energy you have is definitely feeding on to everyone else around you. So the next piece that we're going to, or next composer, should I say, is Catherine Likuta, who was born in 1981, Australian-based composer and pianist, and has had recent residencies at the University of Connecticut and the University of Georgia and North Carolina New Music Initiative. So the piece that I found to be really interesting with Catherine Likuta is Scraps from a Madman's Diary. So this piece was composed in 2016. It's 35 minutes long, and it's in two parts. The first part has 8 scenes, and the second part has scenes 9 through 13. And then it's for SATB choir, either full choir or chamber choir, and for wind ensemble. So this is one person on a part, around 52 winds in the group. The origin of this oratorio for wind symphony was commissioned by Queensland Conservatorium Wind Orchestra, and this is with support from Sydney Conservatorium and the University of Georgia, which is one of her residencies. In one evening in 2006, Catherine Likuta read Ukrainian author Nikolai Gogol's short story, Diary of a Madman. Born and raised in Ukraine, the composer was familiar with Gogol's most popular works, but less so with this one. Said that did not expect much of it, she says. She was just shocked by what happened. And just so you know, in this story, the main character in Gogol's story, the madman, begins to go mad. He starts out sane in the beginning of the book and then begins to lose his sense of reality. And so at the beginning of the story, he falls in love with his boss's daughter, who is walking into the building. And then slowly this unravels, and he starts to feel like the dogs in the yard are talking back and forth about him. And it just becomes this spiral for him of losing his own sense of reality. Well, Catherine Likuta decided to create a piece about the sensation she had when reading this story. And from that, created the first 8 scenes where reality gets bent and broken for this person. And then at scene 9 through 13, it's where reality and this new world that he has created collide and meet each other. And he is struggling to find his true reality in this essence. So with this, the performance we're going to listen to is the Australian Voices and Queensland Conservatorium Wind Orchestra, who this piece was commissioned by. This is under the baton of Peter Morris, who will be conducting. The very beginning is going to open with the choir singing about the madman who is emotionally upset because he feels people at work are against him or talking about him, and he feels like something's not going right, but he's not sure what it is. And that's what our first section is going to open up with at the very beginning of the piece. This is scene 1.
나
Today as well.
So in this first excerpt, in the opening, it starts off with the diary entry from this person's perspective, and it begins this story, this evolution of reality getting scrambled. What I find interesting first is, with this piece and the piece we just listened to, Cosmosis by Susan Botti, is the setup. So we have ensemble on the right, and then vocals on the left. Our choir is on the left. In the piece with Susan that Susan Botti composed, you have this sound world that's created where both the winds and choir are building this sonic space, but it has a very the stage element is different than this one that we hear, because this one feels a little more Broadway in a sense, with the wind characteristics that we have, but also with the setup of scenes. And then eventually the choral members begin to interact or move around the stage and do some different interactions with one another, just to enhance or to kind of break down a barrier within the performance. The second section we're going to listen to is scene 8, which is when the madman is confused by a diary entry, and then is like finding himself struggling with deciding what is reality and what is not real, what is this fabrication of his own making. And then in this begins to get very frustrated because he can't settle the voices that he's having to deal with personally, and begins to rip up his diary. So here is scene 8. And I want you to think, especially in this one, what the feeling would be like being in the choir during this segment, and having these, having this interaction and extra element of shredding these papers, what that would feel like or be like for you. So here is scene 8.
Read this entry. I don't like this date. I don't want to read this entry. Don't like this.
I must read that article now. The one I wrote yesterday. Okay, let's see. Structural change in global economy. Introduction. Watchability. Adjective, Ukrainian word form, insane. In the state of mind that prevents normal perception, behavior, or social interaction. Seriously, mentally ill.
What is this?
Watchability.
Did I write this?
Ukrainian, insane. Adjective.
Why would I write this?
Prevents
Wait a minute.
normal perception.
What the hell is this?
Seriously, mentally ill.
Wait, stop! Wait, stop!
Adjective. Ukrainian. Prevents insane. Watchability.
Stop, I said!
Ukrainian. Insane. Prevents perception. Seriously, mentally ill.
So I don't know about you, but I can imagine that this experience, especially being a part of a performance like this, could be very powerful and impactful. Where also it's not taken lightly how it could uh, impact the audience or the people participating. That's none of this is meant to be in any way harmful or hurtful to anyone, but it is to bring light to a part of the world that we do live in, and in some ways help to try and understand what some people are potentially facing. But being a part of a performance like this and that feeling of musicking or being in the choir during that time uh, could at itself build a certain feeling or sensation within one's being, which I just find to be interesting how we connect or interact with the music that we're a part of, especially in performance. Rehearsal is where we get to know each other really well, but in performance is where we really start to connect on another level, because the words are no longer there for us with talking about the music, but we're just a part of the music at that moment. So the last piece that I would like to share with you, and the composer is Derek Spiva Jr. Born in 1982, is a Los Angeles-based composer, had a residency with the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra, and is the artistic director of a new music collective and arts organization, Bridge to Everywhere. What I think is really cool, I didn't know anything about this Bridge to Everywhere group that he's created, but they celebrate cultural diversity by bringing people together to experience interwoven musical traditions so as to foster a more inclusive society. It was founded in 2015 in Los Angeles. It's a classical chamber ensemble and arts organization dedicated to supporting composers, performers, and educators who celebrate cultural diversity through interwoven musical traditions. And that's through collaborations, performances, educational programs, and the organization strives to build bridges between instruments, genres, cultures, and people. And I just thought this was absolutely beautiful. And what a better way to kind of close out a presentation about music for winds and choir than with our final one that's really reaching to grab everyone and bring us together and unify us, especially now. Derek Spiva's accomplishments, I found him to be so fascinating because he is connected to, he has his genealogy is connected to Ghanaian, Nigerian, British, Irish, and Native American ancestry. But then also his study as a composer delved into classical music, West African dance and music, Persian theory, Balkan music theory, and Tala and Hindustani classical music. So he's very, very diverse in his knowledge about other cultures and the music that they have to offer. The piece of his that we're going to close this out with is In Our Hands a Canvas, composed in 2019. It's 24 minutes long and it's in two parts. The first part, The Painter is the Paint, and the second part, Perspective is the Dance. It's for soprano and alto voices, wind ensemble, and then piano, organ, and electric guitar. Electric guitar is not a formal, electric guitar and organ are not typically in wind ensemble settings, whereas piano does make occurrences quite regularly. But the organ and electric guitar portion really helped to build up this experience in this piece. A couple of things about the piece before we listen to it. There are like 14 different directions for wind ensemble and choir throughout that involve improvisation, which makes this piece very fun for anyone that's collaborating in it. It just says like play this motive however fast you want, or play any of these 12 notes however you would like, which give the performers a part of the compositional process through rehearsal and performance. The first section we're going to listen to, The Painter is the Paint. We're going to listen to the beginning, and the text is, I in waves, ever-changing colors I have, many colors I have. Our light, the sweeping through the canvas of whose sliding brushes paint with colors of I, emerging out of the vastness of truth, am I, who without edges we move. So we will listen to this. This is performed by the Chapman University Wind Ensemble and Women's Chorus, conducted by Paul Sherman, and this is the first movement. It's just the opening, and the improvisational aspect of the beginning is with all the choral members singing I and waves at different times and different inflections to help build this atmosphere that they're in. Just as a follow-up on this piece, it's Spiva says, much of the philosophical concepts in my text urge the listener to recognize the power that individuals have over their perception of reality. So in the second movement, the text is what you see, change what you see, free is your perception. What you feel, see what you feel is your perception. And it's consistently talking about how perception is what you want it to be. And so we will listen to a portion of the second movement. And so at the end there, they're saying you control your perception and changing, which I think is so beautiful. In our last couple minutes here, final questions. I'm interested if you'd be interested in performing any of these works from your perspective, and then your thoughts on repertoire for choir and winds, or even thoughts on the sound world of choir and winds together, if you have any. I would love to know.
So feel free to unmute and share any thoughts with Shaun. We've got about 3 minutes left before Alyssa and I have to leave for another rehearsal. I'm definitely intrigued, Shaun, with the last piece. I would love to do that piece.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And there's just so many elements that are interwoven within it that make it so fun.
And I see Alyssa would love to do the second piece, the Susan Botti piece.
And,
yes.
Well, and also the theatrical one, the third one, the Scraps in the Diary of a Madman, that could be really awesome. So, but it requires staging. So, anyway.
Yes, the staging has its challenges, but at the same time, it does, it provides that extra element to the performance.
Right. So Shaun, I had a question for you. Obviously, you didn't do like a total comprehensive survey of music for wind band or for band and choirs, but as a bass, it's like, is there music for men's chorus and band? It's like you had two examples of sopranos and altos, and is it something about the tonality of the men's voices that doesn't lend itself as well, or is it just there's probably stuff out there, we just have to uncover it?
I think there is stuff out there that potentially exists to be uncovered, but I do find that composers for winds, people that compose for winds and choir, especially post Symphony of Psalms, do tend towards the upper range of voices, and I wonder too if that's because of the sonic space and as far as projection is concerned, because then especially with men's like tenor and basses, it would be numbers, maybe chamber ensemble, but I think there's definitely a really cool sound space to be to have there in that experience. But that's a great question you raised that I'm going to now have to look into.
Well, I'd like to again thank Shaun for his wonderful presentation, also JungGanBo, and I'd ask you to unmute and thank both of our presenters for this evening. So it's wonderful having you with us. Interactive session delighted to have your input. And we have another session next week with the introduction of 2 composers and a work written specifically for this interactive session with unmuted Zoom singing. So please join us again next week, and thank you for being here tonight. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.